Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where in the world you happen to be. Welcome to this program. Tonight, I'd like to talk about Zanu PF's application to be readmitted to the Commonwealth. Zanu PF is absolutely desperate to be readmitted to the Commonwealth. The party has recently met with the Commonwealth team that is visiting Zimbabwe to assess the country's suitability join, to rejoin the club. And Zanu PF Patrick Chinamasa has made the following comments. We are very pleased that we had a very fruitful engagement with the Commonwealth delegation this afternoon. We discussed a number of issues, mostly centered on our application for readmission to the Commonwealth. Zanu PF fully supports the application for readmission, and we told them so. We do so because, as our president has said on many occasions, we want to be a friend to all and an enemy to none. That's what motivates our application for admission. We have been a valuable member of the club in the past from 1980 to 2003. This is the arrogance of a regime that believes that it has the divine right to rule Zimbabwe and has ridden roughshod over the people, denying them their freedoms, human rights, including the right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country, and even the right to life. We have observed and informed the delegation that our application for readmission was made in May 2018. 4 years later, we have not yet succeeded, continued Patrick Chinamasa. Our observation is that the process is too slow, but also we observe that the benchmarking is skewed against Zimbabwe. It's made too high to a point where it's not applied to any new members who want to get into the Commonwealth or those who want to be readmitted like us. He added that ZANU PF, under his leadership, under the leadership of President Mnangagwa, is implementing all the necessary reforms as it is committed to democracy, the rule of law, and economic development. It is, of course, laughable that ZANU PF is committed to democracy, the rule of law, and economic development. The party does not care about any of these things. The number one priority to ZANU PF is to retain its iron grip on political power at all costs. 4 decades of gross mismanagement, rampant corruption, and lawlessness have left the country in this economic mess and being labeled, and rightly so too, a failed pariah state. Millions of Zimbabweans are living in abject poverty. Basic services such as health and education have collapsed. The people are so desperate for change, they would vote for a donkey if the alternative was Zanu PF. And so to retain its iron grip on power, Zanu PF has no choice but to rig the elections. Robert Mugabe weathered the storm of the 2008 to 2013 GNU without getting even one token democratic reform implemented, thanks to the breathtaking incompetence of Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC banded mongooses. Emerson Mnangagwa is hoping he too can pull off a major diplomatic coup by getting Zimbabwe to be readmitted into the Commonwealth without the regime giving up any of its carte blanche dictatorial powers, over which it was booted out of the club in the first place. Zanu PF has its own explanation why Zimbabwe's application for readmission into the Commonwealth has been held up, sanctions. But of course, the regime has blamed everything else that has gone wrong on sanctions. So why not? Our problem with our readmission should be coming from those countries which impose sanctions against us and who are members of the club. They have to decide whether they want to lift the sanctions. If they agree to have us readmitted, it will follow that they will lift the sanctions. We think it is where the problem may be. The so called Second Republic promised to hold free and fair elections in 2018, but refused to implement even one token reform and went on to blatantly rig those elections. The Commonwealth had a team of election observers who would have recommended readmission if the regime had kept its promise. ZANU PF has not implemented even one token reform since 2018 and is rigging the 2023 elections right now. The regime has failed to produce even something as basic as a verified voters roll. If Zimbabwe was readmitted to the Commonwealth ahead of 2023 elections, the Commonwealth will, at worst, express its disappointment with some election irregularities, but will go on to endorse the rigged elections and to grant Zanu PF legitimacy. The last thing the Commonwealth would want is to readmit Zimbabwe and then a few months down the line have to kick the country out of the club again, particularly over issues that the organization was aware of all along. Of course, if ZANU PF is readmitted into the Commonwealth, the regime will redouble its efforts to have the sanctions lifted. The regime will take the lifting of the sanctions as proof of the party's principled stand and claim that the country's economic development will now finally take off. Meanwhile, the party will continue to use its dictatorial powers to silence all opponents, critics, and the voiceless masses out there. If Zimbabwe is readmitted into the Commonwealth, our fight for liberty, human rights, and dignity will be that much harder, if not impossible. It is therefore incumbent on us, all thinking Zimbabweans, to fight for our liberty. And the fight starts right here and now. Fight to stop ZANU PF being readmitted into the Commonwealth. Those who will give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserves neither liberty nor safety. This is a truism from Benjamin Franklin, a US statesman and that country's one of the country's founding fathers. If you have ever wondered why Zimbabwe is in this seemingly bottomless pit, now you know. Thank you very much and good night.